Happy Veterans Day. I'm Roger Boodoo. I'm a retired Navy commander. Now I work for HOPPR as the medical director for AI. I remember being in a combat tour in Iraq, wishing that we had AI tools and medical imaging at the point of care to help us make better decisions and save lives. So when I was in Iraq, I was a general doctor. So a lot of decisions had to be made on the spot in the middle of the chaos. And also while there in Iraq and during the combat tour, we didn't have imaging at the point of care. And since we have a shortage of radiologists and not necessarily are you able to send images to a radiologist at the time, which takes time, and you don't have that luxury of time during a wartime situation. So having an AI that's attached to the imaging device could make a big difference in helping the non-radiologists who don't have radiology expertise in reviewing images. So if they have to wait and sit on patients longer because they're unable to call a helicopter in, then it'd be great to have artificial intelligence to guide and shape some of those decision-making processes. Well, sometimes necessity leads to innovation. If you don't have any other option, you don't have resources, you got to figure out a way to innovate and make progress. Marie Curie, not only did she discover radioactivity in World War One, think about this, World War One, early 1900s, she figured out how to put X-ray equipment on a truck. Even in the early 1900s, X-rays were still new. X-rays didn't get discovered until late 1890s, I believe, if I remember correctly. So it's very novel technology, yet she was able to find a way to put that on a mobile truck, 1920s, 1910s truck, and drive it around a battlefield and image patients to help the battalion surgeons in the field to make the right, decision. And the term battalion surgeon, it's a historical term. I was a battalion surgeon with the Marine Corps. But back then, in the early 1900s, battalion surgeons actually did operate on patients in the battlefield. We don't do that today. Battalion surgeons, it's a historical name. But back then, having radiology images showing where bullets were, fragments were, would help make, you had no choice back then. You had to operate in the field. We didn't have helicopters flying patients out. So having radiology equipment in the field back then, it was like mind-blowingly innovative. And that's a great example of like innovation under pressure. She figured that out. And even the truck to operate the X-ray equipment had to have been equipped with a generator, which, she was able to figure out and make that happen. And, she probably saved countless lives and helped tremendously, preserve the final force for the war, for, her side. So that's unbelievable. Fast forward to Grace Hopper. She was, Navy admiral. She was one of the first programmers of the first computers, and we were using some of the things she taught us back then, standardize, make language as human recognizable as possible, to the point of today we could vibe code and just talk into our microphone and say, code me this app. I know I'm oversimplifying, but that's where we came from, where we're trying to take computer language and make it more human friendly to recognize, to the point where now I could speak in plain English and create computer software, which it's totally amazing. And it actually decreases the barrier for people like myself who are not computer programmers to actually get involved and create some of our own new things going forward. Elizabeth Blackwell, she's actually a good example as well. She was the first female physician in the United States, and she got rejected by every medical school except one. And it's because her friend, a female who had, we think is uterine cancer, said, hey, I wish I had a lady doctor. She probably would have sought medicine, healthcare quicker than what she did. Back in those times, there were no female doctors. The social norm is modesty. Females didn't want to go see a male doctor because of the physical exams. So Elizabeth Blackwell, applied to all these medical schools, finally got into one. The president of the school gave the vote to the student body, and they voted yes just as a joke. And because no one said no, they let her in, and she showed up, and she was the first woman to become a physician, which is amazing. Changed all the social norms. It took a while; it didn't happen overnight. Even after she graduated and was a doctor, she still had a lot of people not want to rent her an office if she wanted to open up a clinic because she's a female doctor. People thought she wasn't a proper woman. So social norms had to change. So that was what she innovated on. And when the doors weren't opening, it usually comes from necessity. She opened up her own clinic and her own medical school and college for treating poor and women and children, so they could seek the care and get better health care because they removed the barrier of like, oh, a male doctor is gonna examine me now today. It's not even like a thing where a woman goes to doctor, that she has a choice between a man or a woman. So social barriers have definitely changed and started from Elizabeth Black. So learning about these three pioneering stories, it motivates me to see how we can help build the next iteration of this in Battlefield. How do we get AI into the hands of medics, nurses, foremen who are at the front lines? And that's something that I think about a lot because I realize how important that was when I was there. How much I really wished I was there in early 2005, 2006 ish. AI wasn't as big as it is now, but I definitely thought about, hey, I wish there was something that would assist me in making medical decisions. So I think hearing these three women's stories and how innovative and how they really push the boundaries, I think the next big thing that's coming for we call it military medicine and combat medicine is probably AI at the front lines or as close to the front lines as possible. When wartime brings a lot of innovation. I mean, there's a lot of other examples, tourniquets and medevacs, prosthesis care. A lot of things came from military medicine that we now see in everyday medicine. So I think this could be just another iteration of that. Hearing their stories and given my time on the ground during a wartime situation, it really motivates me to try to make this happen.